Hey everyone, welcome back to White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. I'm Wendy, and today we're doing some Dollar Tree DIYs for your fall home decor. If you're not already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button down below, as well as the little bell right next to it so that you can be notified every time I upload a brand new video. If you like these projects, don't forget to give them a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you think, and now, without further ado, let's get started. For this project, I'm going to be using this fall round sign. You can use any sign, it doesn't have to be fall, but we're going to be using the back of this. And then I have some contact paper from the Dollar Tree. This is an old one that I don't really see this design anymore, or this color. And then I'm also going to be using a scrap piece of white vinyl from Frisco, and I'll have that link below. But this is how it comes when you get it from Dollar Tree. This one I pulled out to show you guys, but it says Perky Prize for Wendy. So this was from a sweet viewer. So thank you for that, Jean. And then one of these wood cutouts for fall, and then I wasn't sure which burlap leaf I was going to use. I'll show you that in a minute. And then some fall florals that I have some mums and then some light colored leaves. I'm actually not going to be using that one. You'll see how it turns out. I always change my mind. And then some green grosgrain ribbon. This is 5/8 inch from Dollar Tree. I'm going to cut off the jute twine hanger and then take off the teeny weeny little raffia bow that's already on there. So I'm going to take my white vinyl and I'm going to cut a strip out of this scrap piece so that it'll fit all the way across the center or close to the center of my round piece. And then I'm just going to put that right on the wood with that adhesive. And then I'm going to take my green vinyl, or contact paper actually, and I'm going to cut a piece off, and I'm using the straight edges, the ends of the rolls, so that I don't have to worry about cutting it perfectly. And I'm going to go over the white just a little bit so that I have a perfectly level and even edge for my sign. I'm going to end up covering this so it doesn't matter in the end that I use those perfect edges. And so I'm going to take off the backing sheet and then just lay that down onto the wood, and then I'm going to cut most of it off because then I'll go back and trim it a little bit later, but it's just a little bit easier to work with when I don't have all of that adhesive flopping around. So once I get it onto my wood piece, I started using my scissors, but I wasn't getting a really nice clean cut that I wanted. So I went back and put my cutting mat down, and then I'm going to use my utility knife to make those edges super smooth and snug up right against that wood. And then I'm going to take some of this Dollar Tree green grosgrain ribbon, and I could see a little bit of the white poking out from behind the green vinyl. So I'm going to hot glue these pieces down so that that covers all of those ickies up. And I'm just going to use my hot glue gun on the back, and you kind of want to push it down at an angle so that it hugs that curve of my round. And then I'll just put some more glue down the middle, and so that it stays on the plaque, and then repeat the process on the other side. So now that I have my edges all nice, I'm going to put down my wood piece. I decided to go with the Hello Autumn, and then I took the big maple leaf, and I'm going to use that one and just have the single leaf right there. And then I took a couple of these darker colored mums and one of the little greenery pieces. Once I get the placement that I want, I'm going to use my hot glue to get that all down, and I'm using my makeup spatula to pop down that glue and the burlap together. When you're working with burlap, it kind of poofs up in between the holes, so you end up getting burnt. So this way it doesn't hurt your fingers. And then I'm going to place my mums and then my little piece of greenery. And because I don't want a whole bunch of hot glue strings in between my letters of my Hello Autumn, I'm going to use some single-use super glue from the Dollar Tree, And I love these so much. You just take the lid and you pop it in there, and that'll poke a hole through that foil that covers it up. And then I'm going to go behind all of my sign. I will add a little bit of hot glue to make sure that it stays down right then, but then later on that super glue will attach and it stays snug as a bug in a rug. And then once you're done with your super glue, you can just stick a straight pin into the little hole at the top, and that'll keep it from getting dried up, because I didn't end up using all of that little tube. So now I'm going to take some jute twine and I'm going to thread on some Dollar Tree beads. I used some white ones and then some natural ones. The natural ones I think were from my own stash. But anyway, I'm going to get that all fed on there, and then I'm going to use my needle to poke that into the holes that were already on my sign, and I'm just going to go through that contact paper. I'll just make a couple of double knots, and then I'll use some hot glue to keep those in place. And then once that glue is cooled off and dry, I'm going to take the little white pumpkin from my light colored leaf stem, and I'm going to poke that right at the top in between my mums, and it's done. And here it is, all finished, and I think this turned out so pretty. It was so easy and so quick. I think just designing it is the part that takes the most time. So now that I've designed it for you, you guys can make it exactly like this, and it will be less than 5 minutes to make. I love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. For this project, I'm going to be using 3 of these tall Dollar Tree vases, and you can usually find these pretty often at the Dollar Tree. It's kind of become one of their staples. And then I'm going to use 3 of these little woven baskets. These, again, I've been seeing every time I've been there. And then I'm also going to use some potpourri. I had this full bag, but I also had a half of a bag, so you would only need 1 bag. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my little woven baskets, and using some scissors or a craft knife, I'm going to cut some of those stitches that hold those pieces together, you know, the little rope type things from raffia. And I'm just going to break a few of those apart so that it's a little bit easier to kind of maneuver or manipulate the straw that's on there. I want these to become little mushroom caps. So I want them to have more of a dome shape instead of being flat at the top. And then once I get those to the shape that I want them to be, I'm going to use my potpourri and just fill that into those vases. Now the necks on these are super thin, so you kind of got to push down the larger pieces. Oh, there's a piece of avocado that they've even included. And just get that all filled up. And then I'm going to take some hot glue and simply put my little baskets upside down on top of those vases, and they're already done. Now, I did think about afterwards that it would be super cutie patootie if you added some fairy lights in there. And if you don't want to add the potpourri, you could just do the lights by themselves. I think that would be really cute too. So any way that you want to do this or mix it up, you could put sand in here. You could just leave it empty. Whatever your heart desires or whatever you think is cuteness, do it your way. But I think these turned out so adorable. The easiest project I think I have an easier one coming up. But anyway, and then on one of the vases, I decided I wanted to try and get a lighter color so that there was a little bit of variance in the tones. But look how cute these are. I have them stacked at different levels, perfect for the fall season. You could also stand them next to each other, just 3 in a row for a little more simplicity and a modern look. I love how these turned out, and I hope you guys like them too. For this next project, I'm going to be using 4 of our Old Faithfuls, these 9-inch cylinder vases, and then I've got 4 of these battery operated candles. These are the 5-inch ones. And then I'm going to use 2 bales of hay. Before I did this, I had to re-record because I said Hells of Bay. Anyway, you could use some nativity straw. This is from somewhere, I'm not sure, a craft store, but it was only $1.99. Looks like a Walmart tag, but I'm not sure. I also had some excess, some leftovers from a previous year here so I can use some of my scrap hay as well. And then I'm going to use a pool noodle, and that's going to be the lifter for our candles. That'll make sense in just a second. So I'm going to be using some of that scrap we had left over from our first project, and I'm going to try and draw out a little pumpkin. If I had one of those cutouts from Dollar Tree, that would have been perfect. That's what I had planned to use to make this little template, but I couldn't find one for the life of me, so I'm just going to have to do it myself. So I'm going to cut this out. Now I'm trying to make this into a stencil, so I want the outside portion to be the part that's going to be smooth and clean lines, not the inside, you know, like you would normally use. So I'm going to cut that out, and then I'm going to make sure that the size is going to fit our letters from this Dollar Tree letter sticker sheet. And so you see there, it fits in there. And so I'm going to take some painter's tape and put my little template onto the vase. Now I would have taken off the backing sheet, but I only had the one and I only wanted to cut out one. So to make it last for all 4 vases, I just left the backing sheet on there. You see what I'm saying? So now I'm going to put my letter right in the middle, and then I'll take my pumpkin chalk paint from Waverly, and then I'm using a paintbrush to go over my stencil and my letter, and I'm kind of letting some of that peek through so it's not a completely solid orange. And I also didn't know how well my stencil was going to keep my paint from bleeding because I didn't use the adhesive and just used the, you know, basically I'm using a piece of paper. So I'm going to get that paint all on there, and then it dries pretty quickly, but I'm going to do it while it's wet, and I'll pull the stencil off, and then I'm going to take a little pointy tool to get my letter off, and that's going to leave our letter with the glass behind it so that you'll be able to see through the letter. So now you can decide where you want the placement of your candle, so you can have it higher and let the hay show through the open letter, or you can go a little bit further down and then have the white of the candle behind the pumpkin so that you see the white. I decided to go with the white behind the candle. So I'm going to measure my pool noodle and cut that down so that I can put my hay around it and I don't have to fill the whole thing with the hay itself. So it's going to go just below my pumpkin, and I thought that would be cute because then it's going to look like my pumpkin is sitting on top of a hay bale that's inside of my candle holder. And this is the old hay bale that I had in a Ziploc baggie. You see I cut off the little wires that hold the bale together. I would recommend doing this in a plastic baggie when you go to break it apart, and then just shove it down around the pool noodle. And then once you get it all in there, you can set your candle right on top, and then now you'll be able to see the letter from behind. But the reason I say to do this in a Ziploc baggie, you'll see right here, I actually have my ceiling fan on, and so when I broke it open, it just started flying everywhere. You can't really see it on film, but it's going everywhere, and so I'm going to have to turn off my fan, and then I continued the process. But if you open it and cut off those straps inside of a Ziploc baggie, then you won't have that going all over the place. And then I'm just using a ruler to tap that down around the whole pool noodle so that you don't see any of the blue peeking through. And here they are all finished, and I think this is so pretty and super easy. I love the simplicity of this. You could also add stuff to the candles and make it as frilly as you want, or you could add bows to the tops of your vases. Whatever you want to do, this is your show, but I love these and I hope you guys like them too. For this next Dollar Tree DIY, I'm going to be using these window clings, and these are so cute. I love this design. Also, there's a second sheet, so you get double for your money. One of them has a little bit of texture on them, so I thought that was really sweet. I'm also going to be using these 3 acrylic jars from the Dollar Tree. I think these are super functional, and you can keep these on your countertops and actually put cookies or whatever you want inside of them. All we're going to do is add these clings to the acrylic. I wasn't wasn't sure if this was going to stick on plastic or acrylic, but they do, just like they do on glass. So I love changing out my glass cylinders, and you've seen me do a Christmas one before with the Christmas clings, but this is perfect because you can change these out for the different seasons or whatever colors you're using. I'm going to put the pumpkin patch one in the middle and then add 2 sweet little pumpkins on the sides. I was going to do more to the tops, but I think they look just adorable the way they are, and then you can put them away and bring them out for next season or just change them up every year. This is the one I was talking about that is more easy than even the ones that we've already done, but I love how these turned out and I hope you guys like them too. If you are still on the gnome train, here's an easy way to just make over one and you don't have to start from scratch. I'm going to be using a Dollar Tree summer gnome that's already put together, a pair of socks from Dollar Tree, and then one of their bath mats. So all I'm going to do is just kind of disassemble him. I'm going to take off his sunglasses, remove his drink, and then I'm going to cut off his little arms. I wasn't sure if I was going to be using those or not, but I end up using them. So I'm going to gently take off his hat. No, not really. It takes a little muscle to get this guy off. There's a lot of glue involved here. I wasn't really sure how much I was going to have to take off on him, but I do end up having to remove his little sandals. I thought they would just go floppity up inside of my sock, but it didn't. I could see through it. So I'm going to pull off his beard and his little gnome nose, and then I'll cut those sandals off and save those maybe for something else. And then I'm going to take my sock and gather it up into my hand, just like you would be putting a sock on your foot, and then pull it up around his whole body. And then I'm going to tie a knot at the very top and cut off that excess material. Now I'm going to set that aside because we're going to be using that for his little arms that I'll add in just a minute. So I'm taking my bath mat and my hat, and I'm just going to add a lot of hot glue. I want the little stripe to be in the front, so I'm just adding the glue to the mat, and then I place the hat on top of it, cut off the excess bath mat, and then I'm just going to start gluing around and roll that hat onto the bath mat so that it's completely covered. And then in the back, that's not going to show, well, I mean, it kind of does, but you know, I'm going to cut that and make that the seam so that it's on the back and not on the front. Obviously, I guess, huh? And I'm just going to roll that around with lots of hot glue and turn that into a little cone. And because there's stuffing up inside of there, it's going to stand up nice and perky so that I don't have to do anything else or make it rigid because the hard work is already done for us. So then I'm just going to cut up the back side of the little cone and make that seam in the back. And this is kind of fuzzy material, so any seams kind of just go away. And then I'll just do some trimming off and some hair cutting, and then at the bottom I'm going to make that go around the edge of the original hat. And then once my hat's done, I'm going to glue that onto the back of my sock covered body. And then in the front, I have a gap there. So I'm going to use my hot glue inside. You kind of can't tell, but I'm squeezing the hat so that it's lifted up and I can fit my little beard and my nose inside of the hat. And then I'll go back with my hot glue and secure the top front part of his hat. Now I had a little messy bow already made. It was attached to another sign in another project, so you can always reuse and recycle here. Some of the little tails were a little bit too long, so I can just dovetail those off and get it to the size that I want, but I thought this was the perfect little embellishment for his hat. And then I'm going to take some fall hydrangeas and take 3 of those flowers and hot glue those onto the middle of my little bow. And I wanted to add a pumpkin to him, but I couldn't find a way to do it where it looked pretty cute. So I decided to just let him hold a pumpkin. So I'm going to take that excess sock material from the top that we cut off, and I'll just hot glue around his original arms, get those all completely covered up, and then glue those to the side and put my little pumpkin in his hands. And now he's holding a pumpkin. And here he is all finished, and I think he turned out so adorable. And I think it just goes to show you, you know, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But if it can be cuter or updated, go ahead and just remix it. I love how he turned out, and I hope you guys like him too. For this project, I'm going to be using some of these long barbecue skewers that you can usually find in the summertime. And then I found these super cute fall pumpkin patch signs, and I love them and picked up a few of them because they've got this really pretty scallop along the top edge, and I thought I could use those for different projects. I'm also going to be using 6 Jenga pieces and then 4 of these half wood beads. I'll have these linked in the description box below. So I'm going to start by removing the jute twine as the sign holders, and I'm left with the little holes that are at the top of these. Now I really love the design and want to keep that exactly the same way that it is. So in order to remedy those holes and cover them up, I'm going to use those half beads to do that. So I'll just use some hot glue and glue those over the holes so you can't see them, and it kind of just looks like, I don't know, a little addition to the sign where it's like hanging it up or something, little buttons or rivets. I don't know, I just thought it was way cute. So I didn't even paint them or do anything. I just knew that I didn't want to lose the pretty green of that plaid design at the top. So now I'm going to take my Jenga pieces and hot glue those onto the back side of one of my signs. I'm going to do 2 close together, and I'll put my skewer in there because I want to be able to remove these when I'm storing them away. So I'm going to make sure that that goes up and down inside there, and then I'll put one at the very top so that that stops it from moving any higher. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. I did end up using my ruler to measure to see where it needs to be so that my skewers are going to be even from the ends from both sides of my sign. You guys know I like to eyeball stuff, but this one I did have to measure because I was way off when I put it down the first time. So I just had to pull it back off and then redo it. And then once I have my little brackets in place, I'm going to take the other sign and put that right on top, and now I have a double-sided sign that from both sides looks super, super cutie patootie. And then I'm going to add my skewers into my sign, and you could use this for a number of things. You could just put this directly into your yard or into, you know, a flower bed or somewhere under your porch in a big bale of hay. But I decided to use this crate from Walmart. I'll have these linked in the description box below. I'm going to measure how tall I want my sign to be inside of my crate, and I'm going to take that skewer and go all the way down to that middle board that goes across, and then I'm going to take my staple gun and go right along the outside of my skewer so that the sides of the staples go on each side of my skewer. Does that make sense? So I'll just staple those all to the side of my crate, and then I'm going to go back in with my hammer and get those staples to kind of hug around that skewer so it doesn't come apart. So now I'm going to take this Dollar Tree burlap banner, and it's already got rivets at the top. They're kind of sheddy, or they're, you know, they kind of come apart because it is burlap, but it comes with the jute twine. So I'm just going to feed that in through this little banner. I'm only using 4 of the little flags, and then I'm going to hot glue those inside of my sign because, you know, there's a little gap where they come together, and that will dangle down from the bottom of my sign. I did end up having to pull up the middle of the banner to give it a double scallop because my pumpkins were getting in the way of it when I was filling my crate. So I just took a little Dollar Tree glue dot, and I'm going to put that on the inside of my sign right in the middle, and then move my little flags around so that now my little pumpkins will go into my crate nicely, and I don't have to worry about them getting in the way. But look how adorable this turned out. I love this so much. Again, you can use just the sign portion and put that anywhere in your fall display, like on your front porch or in your garden area. This is probably gonna go in front of my fireplace. I'm not sure. I have so many options, but I love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. I hope you guys enjoyed these projects, and if you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you think. And if you're not already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button down below, as well as the little bell right next to it, so that you can be notified every time I upload a brand new video. I hope everyone has a blessed day, and remember to always be the light. Bye!